Fear is because we haven't addressed the issue. Confidence comes by massive preparation. If I'm ever going to do anything and I feel like I'm not prepared, I'm full of angst. But if I am fully prepared, I'm full of anticipation. I'm no longer afraid how it's going to go. I just can't wait to unleash what's going on inside of my soul.
Welcome to the Man Maker Show. This is where weak excuses die and men of all ages are held accountable to rise stronger, bolder, and fearless. Grit, ambition, and authenticity are not optional. They are the price you pay to become the man you are meant to be. If you are ready to face the fire, take charge, and own your future, then your journey starts here. And now your host, Brad Wolgamott.
Hello and welcome back to the Man Maker Show. Brad here. Hope you are doing incredible. That's always my request because I think life is a choice. Had a chance to talk to a group of men the other day, we call them desert men, talking about the choices we can make every single day about how we're going to approach life, how we wake up, how we go to bed, how we live our life, and how life is a choice. We're not victims. There are things that happen to us, but oftentimes we overblow them. Not always, give yourself a break, but for the most part we tend to overblow them because we seem to create an identity in problems. We tend to create an identity. In fact, I would say there's more people creating identity about how hard life has been as compared to how good it's been. I would also make the argument that there are a lot of people that say, if I talk about how good my life is, I'm bragging. And I'm more popular if I talk about how bad it is. And we need to fix that. We need to correct that. We need to change that because life is to be lived. Life is to be celebrated. There aren't any people that I'm aware of in their 90s or 100s or late 80s when they're looking at the end of their life that are wishing they had more problems, right? So I guarantee you there's a lot of people that as we get older, we tend to look at our problems, but we really should be celebrating our life. And so this next few weeks here, what I want to do with you is I want to talk to you about the concept of the most common things we're afraid of as men. And I'm not a big fan of the word fear because I don't think fear serves me. I also think fear is misplaced faith. We've heard the FEAR, false evidence appearing real, as a common statement. And really what that is if we allow these fears to get a hold of us, then we live a reactive lifestyle. And I've always challenged people to live a responsive lifestyle. And a responsive lifestyle requires us to think ahead, to have a different mindset about challenges. We talked a little while back about the strength of having a strong self-image or a powerful identity in God. And as sons, as heirs to the throne, if you will, as brothers to Christ, that our daddy is the king of the universe, that all things are created in a way that somehow make us better and stronger. We have to find a way to frame adversity. We have to recognize that there is an equal and greater benefit coming out of everything. Sometimes it's going to be in our next life, right, in heaven. We don't really know because there are certainly mysteries in our life, like losing loved ones, that may never make sense. But there may be a time it makes sense when you're able to mentor people through similar situations. But I've identified 10 fears that I think are the most common. And what I'd like to make this opportunity is for you to give me some feedback about where you'd like me to expand. I'm going to give you what I believe the top 10 concerns. And I'm going to try to remove the word fear because there's enough of us out there saying, I'm not afraid of anything, right? But at the same time, I think we would be foolish to say I'm not aware of the potential challenges. I'm not aware of an adversary. I'm aware that these could be issues. Right. One of the worst things you can do is walk into a gunfight with a knife. One of the worst things you can do is assume that there isn't an enemy trying to get you. One of the worst things you could do is to think that there's nothing you need to fight against. And that would be foolish, right? It's like walking out, it's freezing cold, and you're wearing a T-shirt. You're just not prepared. So let's talk about this from a standpoint of developing a mindset of being prepared, to be strong and bold, to handle any situations. And I would say that the number one fear for most of us is failing as a husband or father. Now, if you're a young man and you don't have kids yet, you're not married, this will be on your mind, right? Am I a good enough role model? Am I strong enough to handle the needs of my family? I think a lot of men lay up at night asking themselves this question: have I done everything I can do to provide for the financial needs of my family? Have I done everything I can do to provide for the emotional strength of my family? Am I building my wife? Am I building my children? Am I speaking into them in a way that's positive and fulfilling and expectations? Speaking blessings over them? Or am I always yelling at them or correcting them or arguing? Or worse yet, trying to one-up anybody in our household? Some people just can't stand to let someone else tell a story. They have to interrupt them all the time, or they have to be the star of every channel. I think it's a real thing that we fear not being enough. And I think if we look at it, a lot of that stems from our childhood. And I can't spend time that I want to on every one of these subjects, so I'm just going to spend a little extra time on these first two or three. I'd like some feedback from you in the channel on areas would you like me to spend more time on remedies to overcome some of these doubts or concerns or fears, or call them what you will. But I think one of the main things that nags us is, will we end up like our fathers? And some of you had great fathers, some of you had okay fathers, and some of you had terrible fathers, and some of you had no fathers. But even great fathers, there's areas about them that were like, I would rather be better. I would rather not repeat that nature. I would rather not to have that issue in my marriage. I'd rather not do that in my household where my kids think of me the way I might have thought of my dad in those particular times. So I want you to spend some time thinking about, as a man, it is your responsibility to spearhead all issues in your house. And yes, that's a big load. So what? We got big shoulders. We were built with stronger structure to be able to fight these wars, to do what we need to do. Don't shuck it off. Own it. Be a man. Say, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, it may be challenging and scary and hard, but I'll take that. I'll talk more about how to address these in the future. I think the second fear that most people are dealing with is, am I using my life? Right? The fear of wasting our life. Realizing that we are born for a purpose. I like what Mark Twain said, the two most important days of life: the day you were born and the day you figure out why you were born. And how many people kind of wander around? I mentor and counsel and sit with so many men that I ask them, what is the overarching purpose? And they really look at me like stunned. And yet I have a friend named Mike Parog who's built an entire program about teaching men how to create purpose for themselves and to create purpose for parenting and purpose for being in a marriage, so that you know why you do what you do. Because if you don't take the time to know why you do what you do, you won't do what you're supposed to do. You just kind of get lost. You're this wandering generality. And so we regret missing opportunities because I'm just not sure. And you know, what's the old saying? You don't make a scalpel safe by making it dull. Right? A lot of us try to dull our life so we don't make big mistakes. I say you make a scalpel safe by putting it in the hands of someone who knows how to handle it, a quality surgeon that's been prepared. And so we look at our life. If I place my life in the hands of men that can mentor me, if I place my life in the hands of a Father God that loves me, that can give me direction on virtually everything, if I'll take the time to sit down and listen, then I put myself in a much better place. There's an incredible scene in Saving Private Ryan, and it's an old movie, so you're going to have to go back and watch it if you're young. If you're in your 40s, you've probably seen it. But there's a scene at the end of the movie when the soldier that was saved, Private Ryan, was at the tombs, the burial ground, and I believe it was in France, in Normandy, where the men were buried. And he's standing next to his wife, and he's got tears in his eyes, being thankful for his life, being thankful that he didn't die on that day, and those men did. They made the great trade, the great sacrifice. And he looks at his wife and he says, tell me I've lived a good life. Tell me I'm a good man. It's a very powerful scene in the movie, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. It's not one of those IYKYKs, if you know, you know, because most people don't know. But what he's saying is, tell me that I used the gift of life that these men gave up their life so that I could have a better life and live my life. Tell me that these guys didn't die in vain. And I think as men, we all have to come to grips with that. I'm shocked how many people I meet in their 40s and 50s that seriously have not had a major breakthrough and they're still trying to figure it out. I'm like, what the frick is wrong with you? Now, that sounds a little bit harsh, but I'm going to slap you because you're making excuses for why things haven't gone well. When in reality, every great man has been through horrible things. I have a significant investment in a web server company, kind of like WAS, is that what it's called? Amazon, AWS, but not that one, but a competitor of theirs. And he's an incredibly successful CEO, but one day a tragic accident happened, and he was walking down the stairs and tripped, and the glass broke, and it shattered his eye, and he's been blind ever since. And yet he's one of the most successful CEOs to this present day, and though he lost his sight, he used this incredible adversity somehow to find a way to be a greater man. And we'll talk more about that, but if you're dealing with that fear of if am I wasting my life, then let's talk about how to fix that. And if that's one of your things, then get back to me, right? I think that third one, it's a little different than just fear of failing as a husband. I think the third one is I would just break it into the category of not being enough. Am I enough, right? Have I really dug in on my purpose? A lot of people struggle with what we call the imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome basically says this: if you really knew me, you probably wouldn't love me. If you really knew what was going on behind the screen here, you would be disappointed. And so we put this front up, this mask up, to try to be something so that people don't think of us as what we really are. This feeling of being inadequate, unworthy, and really it's typically a result of character flaws. And again, I would love to go into way more detail on these things. I just don't have the time in 25, 30 minutes to go through solutions. So if these are subjects that you want some feedback on to go deep on creating solutions, then just respond back and let me know. I will create content on that. I think the fourth leading failure, and this could be number 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think these have to be ranked in a category. But as I put them down, it was a fear of failure. FOF. Fear of failure is real, specifically when it's about letting down those that we love. And again, it comes down to that worthiness. It comes down to that identity. It comes down to those character flaws. All these things have a very consistent vein, a very consistent pattern, a very consistent action that creates a solution. But this fear of failure binds us from even taking actions. I read a survey, I've talked about it before, of 90-year-olds that were interviewed, and they said, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently? And the number one answer is, I'd have spent more time with the people I loved. The second answer is, I would have taken more risks in order to have more time to be with the ones I love. We keep trying to play it safe because we're afraid to fail, when in reality, if you don't take some chances, you're never going to have multiplicity. You're never going to have the breakthrough that you want. And so this fear of failure, when I played competitive tennis, and later in my life trying a run at competitive golf, it was the fear of failure that broke me in sports. I was more afraid of looking bad when I failed than I was of visualizing victory and championships and breakthrough. I allowed the potential negative outcome get in the way of the actual performance. And I think there's a lot of people that struggle with this fear of failure. And, again, if it's not fear, if you don't want to use that word, then what is it? What's keeping you from taking that shot? What's keeping you from taking that chance? Well, what if I lose? Well, what if you win? Right? I mean, you got to be calculated. That's why you always need a COL around you, a council leaders around you to make quality decisions, but you've got to take your shot. I think the fifth fear I would talk about is the fear of rejection. And this is what keeps most people out of the marketing world. Right? Some people say, well, I'm just not a salesman. Right? I'm not like that. I'm like, the reality is you're probably more afraid of people's opinions than you are about anything else, because we know for a fact that the highest paid professions in the world are consistently built around marketing. And marketing is the willingness to communicate your vision, your passion, and ask for money for it. In a lot of times in my life, I have had a fear of asking for money. I don't ever want to be considered a person that does what I do for money. It's been a struggle, yet all great salespeople get past that. And even though I've done well in the marketing world, I would say the thing that hamstrung me was people thinking that I'm greedy. And some of you suffer from that same thing, and it keeps you from taking a shot because you're more concerned about what they think of them rejecting you or talking negative about you than the actual service that you're trying to offer to them. people typically need what it is you're trying to communicate, whether it be health, or it be insurance, or it be your faith, or it be a healthy marriage, right? Or it's technology, whatever it is that you're communicating, people need it. You wouldn't be marketing it if you weren't believing in the need of the product or service. But you let money slow you down. You let what they might think you think keep you from doing what you know is the right thing, and that is you're communicating with them a message that's vital for the growth and development of life. If you aren't communicating something that is vital to someone's life, if it isn't something that really ends benefit, then get out of it. Because selling something you don't believe in is a waste of your time. But if you believe in the product or the service, or you believe in the message and the meaning and the value and the purpose, then for God's sake, shout it from the mountaintops and let people have their opinions. We don't have the right to control how anybody else thinks. So we shouldn't be stopping what we're going to do because we think they might think a certain way. I would be happy to do an entire episode on that subject alone. If that's something, if you have a fear of failure, or fear of people's opinions, then let's talk about it. And I'm going to circle back on this one a little bit. The sixth one I'll talk about is the fear of losing respect. And I think that this is something that makes us mad. If I were to think about the things that have made me mad in my life, even to this present day, it's when I feel disrespected. Okay? So it's very interesting because I think anger is fear. I think when I act angry, I'm really afraid of something. So I get angry when I'm afraid of being disrespected. When I feel I'm being disrespected, what I'm afraid of is their opinion of lowering respect. And that could be ignoring me, that could be talking over me, that could be saying insulting things, that could be asking for my opinion but not waiting for any kind of result or answer. It could be something that they just don't ask my opinion when I think I've got an opinion that would be valuable for insight. Or it could be driving down the road and someone disrespects you by cutting you off like loser, right? And that's a respect issue. And it typically leads to anger. And again, I mean, we could spend 30 minutes on that subject alone, let alone hours on the subject of the fear of losing respect. Because I think the worst thing we want to ever be seen as is weak or incompetent or soft or incapable. And so I think respect falls on that. Respect isn't just like, I don't respect your authority. It's like thinking that you're not capable. But I think it's important to recognize that respect of man is fleeting no matter what. And you're never going to be able to do enough things to gain the respect of everyone. Just look at politics, right? Both sides of the Democratic and Republican positions are extremely passionate and extremely convicted and think they are 100% right. That's nature. It's okay. It's okay we have different opinions. You're not going to fight for the respect of everyone. I think the key is, and we'll talk about this more, but it's the respect of those you respect. I think that's really the big issue and something that we're all working through. So let's talk about number 7. I think it's number 7, and that is financial instability. Maybe this is even higher for a lot of people. I'm fortunate that I did quite a few things early in my life to put myself in a position where that fear doesn't impact me. But as I get older and the world changes and business models I've run and developed and managed change, they morph into different types of income streams, and some of them have definitely been impacted. That's okay. So I do get it. And I think the question is how deep do you think about your financial responsibilities? I think some people think I only need to take care of my wife and my kids, where I would beg to differ. I think as a man, I need to be fighting for the finances of my parents, to take care of them when they no longer can and have enough means and resources to take care of my mom and dad. I think I need to have enough means and resources to take care of my brothers and sisters if they can't. And every family has issues, and so who's going to take care of the kids? I mean, I could say, well, so-and-so's got it. Well, baloney on that. I think I have responsibility to have a game plan to take care of my brothers and sisters. And I certainly need a game plan to pass on generational wealth. Now, that's a whole other subject in itself, but I believe I have responsibility to have enough wealth passed on that my kids get a head start. Now, that can mess them up, and we all know that, but don't let the fact that it can mess them up, let that be your excuse why you're not creating financial advantages so that your children have a head start in life, whether that be their first home or a trust account that is paid for their kids' education, or it's a trust account that covers their insurance, or it's a trust account that in case the fit hits the shan, the world falls apart, that you've taken care of your kids even though you're no longer here. I hear a common conversation, people saying, well, I think the world's kind of wrecked. I won't be around for it, but my kids will be. And that makes me, a little fearful. Well, what kind of economic plans are you putting in place to make sure that you've got your kids and your kids' kids? I believe the Bible says you're supposed to take care of 3 generations, your kids, kids, kids. I don't know the verse and so forth, but I've heard that. So perhaps it's true. Someone can help correct me on that if you will. But I think that when it comes to finances, I'm not trying to increase your fear. I'm trying to increase your responsibility and awareness that it's more than just taking care of our household. Now, I don't believe in fear running my finances, but I do believe in being sensitive to a business plan, a structure, a savings, an investment plan, a long-range, midterm, short-term plan. I believe it is my responsibility. And I think a lot of people either A, they just kind of discard like, well, I'm just not into money, or that's just not my thing, or, I'm not really that motivated by that. And so we forget about mom, dad, brother, sister. We forget about our community. We forget about our kids coming down the road. We forget about maybe we should be taking care of identifying cures for diseases with the economics of our windfalls of profits on a long-term basis and build hospitals and so forth. We kind of, that's someone else's thing. Why? Why not yours? Why not mine? Why not ours? So we'll talk more about that as well, but let's just keep going on the list. Number 8, and that's a feeling of powerlessness. This is not as common, but as we age, or maybe some of you young folks are dealing with this, because I don't find it as common to be taught how to home defense. How do you take care of your house, right? Someone comes at you. How do you defend yourself? Right? How do you protect them? Are you capable? How do you have a plan? And we could spend a whole 30 minutes on building a home defense plan. Have you trained your children on what to do in home invasion? Right? Part of being a provider for the safety of your family is a plan that in case something happens, well, I don't want to scare my kids. Well, I don't either, but as they get to an appropriate age, they need to know what to do in case of certain situations. I mean, to me, it's no different than we're not going to let our kids walk around the neighborhood unless we know the neighborhood. We're going to be aware of what's going on. That's part of it. So I think people fear, like, I haven't done enough. Or maybe you're losing control of your emotions. And maybe you're wondering if you can keep it all together, right? You're going through some hard times. I've had seasons in my life where I couldn't talk with people without having to cry, just because of depression. There were times in my life that I couldn't sleep because of anxiety. And I had to have medication to help me with that. Those are real things for a lot of people. And I'm not trying to say that it's a bad thing or you're weak because you have it, but we need to address it instead of just stuff it down. I was in a meeting earlier this week with a gentleman that's battled that for a number of years. And frankly, he just quietly suffered. Like, can I defend myself? Can I protect my family? Am I going to be enough? And I'm like, well, did you seek help? Have you got any counseling? Have you got any professional training? And there's a lot of things you do. And people are, no, I just kind of like, and they just kind of hoped it wouldn't be a problem. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's really a bad choice. We're men. We're supposed to grind, man. We're supposed to work hard. We're supposed to be the strength of our house. And if we're not, then who is going to be? If you're not the man of the house that's going to provide economics and freedom and control and dreams and visions and all that, then who is? Well, I had a guy say once, well, don't put that on me. That's not my thing. I'm like, baloney, it's not. If you're a man and you have a family, it is your job. Stop making excuses. Stop saying, well, I wasn't raised that way. So what? We got to step up. We got to learn to be a man. And it ain't easy. And it's going to be challenging. So what? So what? You're strong enough. Just dig into it. You'll be shocked what you can get done in 18 minutes a day. The power of 100. Just 18 minutes a day puts 100 hours into something that you'll be strong and bold in 1 year. I think the 9th fear that we deal with is the fear of being alone. And I don't know if you deal with that or not. I don't particularly, but I had this belief in my life for a long time that everybody leaves. And so I guess that's a fear of being alone. All my friends growing up, they would move away, and, dad was gone and this and that. And it's kind of like, well, so I get that. Or some of us, right? I mean, I'm older than my wife, so what if I pass first? My dad, spent 10 years without his wife, and it was a horrible struggle for him. So what's the solution again to that? I mean, again, it's a whole nother episode, but just in short, community, right? Be involved in something bigger than yourself, that when things in your personal world become really chaotic, you've got a bigger thing to grab a hold of. You've got a bigger vision to be a part of. And yeah, you may go through some hard times when you're alone for a while, but what will pull you out of that is purpose and vision to do something great, whether it be your church, or whether it be Salvation Army, or it be kids sports, or it be something in the science world, or something in the tech world. You need to be involved in something so that when things fall apart and you are alone, which ultimately we're going to go through a season of this, you've got something much bigger to help you get there. And I think that leads me to the last one, and that is the fear of aging and declining health. And if you're in your 20s and 30s, you're like, yeah, whatever, I don't really spend any time with that. But for those of you that are in your 50s, you are looking at the latter half of your life. You'll be very, very, very lucky if you make it to 100. You'll be quite lucky if you make it to 90. Most of you will make it to 80, but that means you're 60% done with your life. And you're coming to that place, you're like, okay, so what happens when I die? Am I properly insured? Who do I leave behind? Have I done the proper preparation? Am I leaving a burden to my family? These are real things, right? And we have to take some time. I think the reason we spend time in anxiety is we don't have a plan. We haven't met with people. We haven't met with someone to trust. We haven't met with people who understand the insurance industry. We haven't met with self-insurance versus Medicaid. We just kind of hope it's not an issue long term and eventually it'll kind of go away. And no, it doesn't. It just leads to more struggle. So I think these are the top 10 fears. If you'd like me to spend time with you going through a 25, 30-minute solution for each of these, I would be happy to, because I've addressed each of these in my life. Have I mastered them? No, but I'm close. I'm close to saying that I'm at a 90% rate of comfort with all of these ingredients, all of these 10 pieces of the pie of fear, if you will. You have what it takes. It's in you, but you probably haven't developed it yet. I heard it said once, well, my greatest fear is I'm not enough. Well, let me be honest with you. You're probably not yet. And if you sit around and hope that you're just going to get stronger by doing nothing, you're a fool. Right? You're probably not enough. You're probably not ready. It's okay to admit that I'm not ready. A buddy of mine just did like a 7-day race, hundreds of miles across a desert, through canyons, rivers, like 8, 9, 10, 11 hours a day. Like superhuman. And I'm going to say he's in his mid-60s. And I'm like, there's no way on God's earth I could do that right now. But I believe if I trained properly and worked at it, I probably could do it. Do I have the desire to do it? That's the question. If you have the desire to overcome any one of these issues, you can, but you're going to have to create the desire to overcome them. Instead of just putting your head in the sand and hoping they go away, it's time to dig in and say, okay, which of these bother me? Which of these I need some coaching? If you want me to help you coach them on, I'll happy to do some episodes. If you want to go out and pursue all kinds of resources, I would recommend that. Dig in. Fear is because we haven't addressed the issue. Confidence comes by massive preparation. If I'm ever going to do anything and I feel like I'm not prepared, I'm full of angst. But if I am fully prepared, I'm full of anticipation. I'm no longer afraid how it's going to go. I just can't wait to unleash what's going on inside of my soul. And this message is one of those. So with that, and I'm going a little bit long, I look forward to your feedback. I look forward to your thoughts. I'm hoping I can interact a little more with you guys as you're asking questions. Let's get strong together. I've battled all of these just like anybody else has. We have a great future. Let's go. Brad Wolgamott, Man Maker, out.